Parents refused to care for my daughter after I was deployed. You shouldn't have had kids if you planned on playing soldier, my dad said. My brother whispered, they gave her to a stranger. I flew home early, stormed into their house, and asked, where is she? The silence was deafening, until a neighbor walked in holding my baby. It was just before dawn when my boots hit the tarmac at Denver International. Everything felt too quiet, too calm, like the city hadn't gotten the memo that my entire life was unraveling. I hadn't slept on the flight. I couldn't. I just kept staring at the little photo I had of Maisie tucked in the flap of my wallet. Her chubby cheeks. That gap-toothed grin. She had just turned 2 when I left. She'd learned to say mama the week before deployment. She was my whole damn world. And now I had no clue where she was. My name's Rena. I've been in the Army for over a decade. 32 now. Been deployed more times than I can count. Desert, jungle, urban, you name it, I've been there. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I came home to. Maisie's dad, Trevor, bailed when she was 6 months old. Said the baby wasn't in the plan. One night, he said he was heading to the store for formula and just never came back. I was left holding diapers and deployment orders. My first instinct was to reject the assignment, but refusing would have meant kissing my military career goodbye. I had no other safety net. I had no choice. So I did what I thought was best. I asked my parents to step in. Now, you should know my relationship with my parents, Frank and Melanie, wasn't exactly warm. Frank is an old-school Marine. Retired, bitter, and louder than a Harley with a broken muffler. My mom, Melanie, spent most of her life tiptoeing around him, but they were all I had. When I told them about the deployment, my mom just blinked like she didn't hear me right. You're going again? It's 7 months, I said. Just 7 months. I'll call every chance I get. I'll send money. You won't have to do it alone. My dad just snorted from his recliner, sipping on his damn Coors Light at noon. You shouldn't have had kids if you planned on playing soldier. I stared at him. I didn't plan to do it alone, Dad. He shrugged. Well, you are. I should have walked out right then. I should have figured something out. But my mom put her hand on mine and whispered, we'll take care of her. You do what you need to do. That was the last time I saw them before I shipped out. The first few months overseas weren't bad. It was hot long days, but I kept my head down. I called when I could. Maisie babbled through video chats, blowing kisses. My mom sent pictures every week. My baby is painting with pudding, running around in her dinosaur jammies. But by the 4th month, the updates slowed down. Wi-Fi's been acting up, my mom said once. She's just napping, she said another time. Then came silence. No pictures. No texts. No return calls. Weeks passed. I started calling multiple times a day. Nothing. The knot in my chest grew so tight I could barely breathe. Then, one night, I got a message from my younger brother, Silas. Now, Silas and I haven't been close since high school. He's always been a little off the grid. Obsessed with conspiracy theories, cryptocurrency, always talking about moving to Costa Rica. But his message? It made my blood run cold. Silas, I think something happened with Maisie. You need to come home. I called him immediately. He picked up, voice low. They gave her to someone, he whispered. I don't know who. But she's not at the house anymore. What the hell are you talking about? I hissed. What do you mean, gave her to someone? I heard Mom crying last week, he said. Dad said something like, we had no choice. And then I saw some girl carrying out Maisie's things. Who? I asked, heart racing. I think her name's Taryn. She lives down the block. Or used to. I don't know. She's not there anymore. I was already packing my bag. I filed for emergency leave. Called every officer I knew. Begged. Pulled favors. Invoked every ounce of rank I had. 3 days later, I was on that flight. When I pulled up to my parents' house in that cab, the early morning light made the whole place look wrong. Like it didn't belong in the real world anymore. Just an illusion I'd believed in too long. I didn't knock politely. I banged on the door like I was raiding it. Frank opened it after what felt like forever, still in his robe. His face was puffy and annoyed. Well, look who's back, he muttered. I stepped right past him. Where is she? I demanded, my voice already shaking. Where the hell is Maisie? My mom came down the stairs in a robe, eyes wide. Rena. No. No excuses. No stalling. Where is my daughter? They stood there, saying nothing. Just silence. The ugliest, thickest silence I've ever felt. Then Frank said, calm as anything, we couldn't do it anymore. You what? She cried all the time. Melanie couldn't sleep. She's not a young woman anymore. It was too much. So you gave her away? I screamed. To who? Taryn, my mom whispered. Who the hell is Taryn? She was helping out. She came over sometimes. She liked kids. She's not family. I shouted. And where is she now? My mom looked down. My dad shrugged. She moved, he said. She left last week. My knees buckled. I slid down the wall and held my head in my hands. They lost my child. They gave her away like an old chair, and now she was gone. For days I stayed in a cheap motel nearby. I went to the police. I hired a lawyer. Filed a report. Begged for help. My parents gave the cops Taryn's name, but no address. Said she just helped out sometimes. She didn't have social media. The number they had was disconnected. And just when I thought I was going to lose my mind, there was a knock at my hotel room door. It was Mrs. Janelle, the old neighbor across the street. She was standing there with Maisie in her arms. My baby. She looked thinner. Her curls tangled. Her eyes were tired. But she was alive. She was here. She's been crying non-stop, Janelle said. Taryn dropped her off and said she'd be back in a few hours. That was over a week ago. I took Maisie in my arms and just sobbed. That's as far as I'll go for now. There's more. So much more. But I needed to tell this part. Because betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes, it wears the face of the people who raised you. The moment I held Maisie in my arms again, something inside me snapped back into place, and something else broke for good. She wrapped her little arms around my neck and buried her face into my chest like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. She cried every night, Mrs. Janelle said gently, watching us from the doorway. Wouldn't eat much. Keep calling for you. I could barely talk through the lump in my throat. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for keeping her safe. She should never have ended up in my house to begin with, she said, her voice sharp now. I don't know what your parents were thinking. Neither did I. That afternoon, I took Maisie to urgent care. She had a rash on her arms, looked dehydrated, and had a low-grade fever. Nothing life-threatening, but it sent a chill through me. I sat there in that sterile white room, rocking her while she slept, and I made a vow. I was done playing it nice. I lost all trust in the people who were supposed to protect her. I filed for full custody, legal clarification to make sure no one could ever pull this again. My CO helped me find a military-friendly attorney, a sharp woman named Marnie who didn't flinch when I told her everything. They gave your child to an unrelated adult without consent or legal paperwork. We have a case, she said without hesitation. What about Taryn? I asked. She disappeared. We'll track her. And if the DA wants to press charges, we'll cooperate fully. But first, let's make sure your rights as her mother are ironclad. A week later, I went back to the house. I don't know what I was expecting. Remorse? An apology? I didn't get either. My mom answered the door and froze like I was a ghost. I'm not here to talk, I said cold. I'm here to inform you. You're both being removed from any emergency contact records. No visitation. No rights. You're done. She looked like I'd slapped her. Rena. We didn't know what else to do. We were overwhelmed. Then you call me. You call Silas. You call the damn Red Cross. You don't hand my child to a stranger like she's a lost puppy. My dad walked into the room behind her, arms crossed like always. You walked out, he said, his tone flat. You put the uniform first. I walked up to him, face to face. You ever say that to me again, I said, voice shaking, and I swear to God I'll make sure the only way you see your granddaughter is in a photograph from across a courtroom. He didn't blink. But my mom started crying. You left us with a baby. We haven't had kids in this house for 30 years. We didn't sign up for this. I laughed. One of those bitter, painful laughs that feels like glass in your throat. You think I signed up for this? I snapped. You think I wanted to be deployed while raising a toddler alone? You think I didn't cry myself to sleep every night wondering if she missed me? You failed me. You failed her. My mom reached for me. I stepped back. I'm done, I said. Stay away from us. After that, the floodgates opened. Silas showed up at my motel a few days later. Brought a toy Maisie had left behind, a stuffed fox she called Buffy. I didn't know they gave her away until it was already done, he said, eyes red. I wanted to tell you sooner. I didn't know how. You should have called the cops, I said. You should have done something. I know, he muttered. I froze. I didn't know what to do. I looked at him for a long time. He was my kid brother. Always kind of a mess. But he tried, even if it was too little, too late. She asks for you sometimes, he said quietly, nodding toward Maisie, who was sleeping on the bed. Even after all that, she still remembers. I closed the door on him without saying a word. Meanwhile, Marnie got to work. She contacted every neighbor on the block, gathering statements. Found a few who had seen Taryn with Maisie. One even had photos from a block party. She kept telling people she was the mother, one woman said. She introduced the baby as her daughter. We all thought maybe she was adopted. Another neighbor said he once heard Maisie screaming through the window. Sounded like she was in pain. I should have said something, he said. I didn't want to interfere. I wanted to scream. So many people had seen signs and done nothing. When we finally tracked down Taryn through a series of burner accounts and an online babysitting ad, she was living in Albuquerque under a fake name. The police arrested her on the spot. The day I sat across from detectives in the interview room, I had to recount everything. From the moment I handed Maisie to my parents, to the last time I saw her, to the knock on the motel door. She kept the baby for how long? The detective asked. Almost 2 weeks, I said. Did she harm her? She didn't feed her properly. Neglected her hygiene. Lied to everyone. She abandoned her with a neighbor and vanished. He jotted it all down. We'll be in touch. She's looking at felony child endangerment at minimum. I wish that was the end. Once I had Maisie back, things returned to normal. But trauma doesn't vanish with a single hug. Maisie wakes up crying some nights, calling out for people who aren't there. I'm in therapy twice a week, working through the anger, the grief, the disbelief that people I loved could make such choices. And the legal stuff isn't over. My parents have hired a lawyer. They're saying they were acting in good faith, that they were just trying to help, that I abandoned my child. I didn't expect the courtroom to feel like a battlefield, but it did. The first hearing was scheduled 2 months after I got Maisie back. By then, I had moved us into a small rental just outside Boulder. It wasn't much, a 2-bedroom with peeling wallpaper and a squeaky screen door, but it was ours. Safe. Quiet. Maisie had started talking more, asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. Why did Grandma leave me with that lady? What was her name again? The one who made me eat cold pasta. Do you still love Grandma? I didn't know how to lie to her. So most days I didn't answer. We arrived at the courthouse on a Monday morning that smelled like rain. I wore a black suit, my dress blues tucked neatly in a garment bag, just in case I needed to make a statement. Marnie had warned me it wouldn't be easy. They're trying to cover their asses, she told me as we stood in the hallway outside the courtroom. They filed for guardianship protection status, basically trying to justify what they did as an emergency placement. They weren't her guardians, I said through gritted teeth. They're arguing you abandoned her by deploying. I blinked. That's the military. That's my job. Doesn't stop them from trying to twist it. My hands were shaking. Then the doors opened and we were called in. My parents sat on the other side of the courtroom, both dressed like they were headed to Sunday service. Frank in a gray suit, face like stone. Melanie in a navy dress, her hair pulled back like it was 30 years ago. They didn't look at me. Not once. Their attorney, a smug man named Colburn, stood up first. Your Honor, he began. This is a case of unfortunate miscommunication. My clients acted out of concern for the well-being of their granddaughter. The mother left abruptly on deployment, and the child's emotional and physical needs became too overwhelming for elderly caretakers. I felt my stomach turn. He continued. They sought help from a trusted neighbor, Taryn Gellings, whom they believed capable and willing. There was no malice, no neglect. Just 2 grandparents trying to do the best they could. Marnie stood up, heels echoing against the tile. With respect, Your Honor, she said, my client left her daughter with the people who raised her, with the understanding that they would care for her temporarily. There was no paperwork transferring guardianship. No consent. And when things got difficult, they handed her off like a hot potato to someone with no legal authority. That person then left the child with another neighbor and fled the state. Judge Langford, a stern woman in her 50s, nodded slowly. I understand. Let's proceed with testimony. They called me up first. I walked to the stand with Maisie's little fox toy in my pocket, my hands sweaty, heart pounding in my throat. Marnie asked me to recount everything. From the moment I asked my parents for help to the night Mrs. Janelle showed up at my door. Did your parents ever attempt to contact you about their decision? She asked. No, I said. They stopped returning calls. Did they leave you any indication that they could not care for the child? No. My mother even told me, we'll take care of her. You do what you need to do. Did you ever consent to a third party taking custody of your daughter? No. Never. Did your parents provide you with an address or phone number for this individual? No. Were you aware your child was missing for over 10 days before she was found? I couldn't speak. My throat locked. Please answer the question, the judge said gently. I nodded. Yes. Then it was Frank's turn. He walked up like he owned the place. Sat down. Didn't even look uncomfortable. I served 2, he started. 2 tours. Vietnam. We didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have help. I came home and changed my daughter's diapers without complaint. So don't talk to me about hardship. What changed then? Colburn asked. She left a baby with 2 people who can barely carry groceries. She didn't check in like she said she would. We were drowning. She checked in multiple times for the first few months, Marnie objected. Frank ignored her. We didn't want her to grow up resenting us. Crying all day. Getting sick. Taryn offered to help. Said she'd been through foster training. Said she knew how to handle it. So you handed over your granddaughter? We thought it was temporary. And when she disappeared? Frank's jaw clenched. We made a mistake. But we were trying to help. Marnie leaned forward. Do you believe a reasonable person would hand off a child without legal process? He didn't answer. The judge asked for a recess. I stepped outside into the hallway and sat on a bench. My knees were shaking. Maisie was with a sitter at the hotel, and I wanted nothing more than to scoop her up and run. Melanie came out a few minutes later. She sat at the opposite end of the bench. We didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "You're not the only one who was scared." I turned to her. You weren't scared. You were careless. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't think she'd actually leave. Taryn. She said she just needed a break. You believed a stranger over your own daughter. She said you'd given her permission. I stared at her stunned. You really believe that? She showed me some email. I didn't read it closely. She forged it. Melanie looked sick. You should have called me, I said. I was ashamed. And now you've lost us, I whispered. That night, I sat on the motel floor, playing with Maisie's hair as she slept. My lawyer said the judge would deliberate for a few weeks before issuing a ruling on custody clarity and charges. I wasn't even sure I wanted to pursue criminal charges anymore. I didn't know what I wanted. Justice? Peace? Revenge? I hadn't seen Taryn since the arrest. But I heard rumors. That she'd kept pictures of Maisie around her apartment. That she told people I was dead. That she believed, in her twisted way, that Maisie was hers. The more I learned, the less I understood. How did it get this far? How did I not see it coming? The next time I walked into the courtroom, something new had been added to the case file. A sealed letter from Taryn. The judge would read it aloud at the next hearing. Marnie just looked at me and said, "Brace yourself." The morning of the hearing, I could feel the weight of that sealed envelope like it had its own gravitational pull. Marnie hadn't let me read it yet, said it had to be opened in court, per the judge's order. Apparently, Taryn had insisted. I didn't sleep the night before. Instead, I lay in bed next to Maisie, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest, brushing strands of her hair away from her face. There were bags under her eyes now, the kind toddlers shouldn't have. She still cried when I left the room. I didn't know if hearing Taryn's words would help or hurt. All I knew was it was going to hurt either way. Courtroom 2B was colder than usual that day. Or maybe that was just me. Taryn wasn't in the room. She was still being held pending trial. No bail. No visitors. I'd imagined what it would feel like to see her again. If I'd spit, or scream, or just freeze. But today she wasn't here. Just her words, folded neatly in that cream-colored envelope, sitting on the judge's desk like a loaded weapon. Judge Langford adjusted her glasses and gave a brief nod to Marnie and Colburn. We have received a written statement from Ms. Gellings, she said. Due to its potential relevance to the guardianship proceedings and the emotional context of this case, I will now read it into the record. I squeezed the edge of the bench so hard my fingers ached. Then she began. To Rena Hallberg, I know you hate me. You probably want to kill me. Maybe I deserve it. But you need to understand what I did because I loved her. Maisie wasn't just a child to me. She was light. She was warm. I didn't plan to take her. At first, I was just helping out, dropping by, keeping her company, bringing over food. Your mom was so tired all the time. Your dad barely spoke. No one played with Maisie. No one even smiled at her. But I did. I made her laugh. She called me T. She'd grab my hand and pull me to her toys. She fell asleep on my lap. It felt like fate. Your parents asked if I could watch her more often, and I said yes. I always said yes. Because I really thought you weren't coming back. I know now that I crossed a line. Maybe I crossed 100. But I didn't hurt her. I swear I didn't. I fed her, bathed her, and sang her songs. I told her stories every night. I told her mommy was brave. I wasn't trying to replace you. I just didn't want to give her up. When I left town, I didn't know what else to do. I panicked. I thought maybe if I kept her long enough, people would forget how it started. But I never stopped loving her. And I hope one day when the anger fades, you'll understand why I couldn't let go. Taryn, the room was dead silent when Judge Langford finished reading. Even the AC seemed to pause. My heart was racing. My throat is dry. She thought I wasn't coming back, I said under my breath. Marnie glanced at me. She's trying to justify it. She thought I was dead. No, she said calmly. She made herself believe you were. It made it easier for her to feel entitled. I wasn't sure if I wanted to cry or scream. Frank stood up abruptly. She's full of it, he muttered. loud enough to draw attention. The judge raised a hand. Mr. Hallberg, sit down. I knew she was crazy. I told Melanie she was too eager, always hanging around, too involved. But nobody listens to me. I turned and stared at him. You let her take my child, I said. Now you want to play the victim? My mother, still sitting next to him, whispered, I thought she was helping. You always think people are helping, I snapped. That's your excuse for everything. The judge banged her gavel once. Enough. After the hearing, I sat in the hallway again. Same bench. Same awful fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Marnie was on the phone with the DA, talking about whether Taryn's letter could be used as an admission of intent. I just sat there staring at the tile. Maisie's voice echoed in my memory. Why did that lady make me sleep on the floor? She said I was her girl now. My stomach turned. Taryn might not have hit her. She might have bathed her and sang to her. But she stole her. She planted ideas in her head. She made her think I didn't want her. She fractured my child's sense of safety. And my parents, they lit the match. A few days later, I got an email. Subject line, family mediation request, Hallberg versus Hallberg. It was from a court-appointed mediator. Apparently, Melanie had requested a formal mediation to repair the relationship and clarify expectations regarding future contact. I stared at it for a long time. Then I hit delete. Marnie warned me the next hearing would be longer. Witness testimony. Statements from neighbors. Possibly even video footage from a Ring camera someone had turned in. But what I wasn't prepared for was what we found on Taryn's old laptop. I'm going to send you something, Marnie said one night. Brace yourself. And keep Maisie away when you watch it. It was a video file, dated 2 weeks before Taryn left Denver. I clicked play. And there she was, Taryn, sitting in a rocking chair in what looked like a child's bedroom. Maisie was off camera, babbling. Taryn smiled into the lens. Say hi to mommy. Say, hi, mommy. Maisie mumbled something that sounded close. Good girl, Taryn whispered. See? We're practicing. You'll get it soon. Then she looked at the camera and whispered, she's mine now. The screen went black. The video changed everything. Marnie didn't even need to say it. The look on her face when we watched it said it all. This was no longer just a custody clarification. This was proof of delusion. Of intent. She called Maisie her daughter. On camera, Marnie said. That's not someone helping out. That's someone kidnapping in slow motion. The video was submitted as evidence. Judge Langford scheduled a new hearing date to review all footage and testimonies. The DA confirmed additional charges were being filed against Taryn. Parental interference. Fraudulent custody claims. Mental health evaluations were requested. And just like that, the narrative shifted. I wasn't the unstable soldier mom who left her child behind. I was the woman who trusted her family and was betrayed by every single one of them. I took a long walk around the courthouse the night before the final hearing. Denver was cool in the evenings now. Fall in the air. I watched the breeze kick up little red and yellow leaves along the sidewalk. Everything in me felt raw but ready. Maisie was with our sitter, drawing on the walls of her playroom with washable markers. When I left, she handed me a picture. It was a crooked, scribbled stick figure with a heart on its chest. That's you, she said. The mommy that came back. The courtroom was full the next day. Observers. Reporters. Even a few neighbors who hadn't spoken up before but now wanted to see how it all ended. Frank and Melanie sat at the defense table. Neither looked at me. Frank stared straight ahead like someone had dared him not to blink. Melanie had her hands folded tightly in her lap. I didn't feel sorry for either of them. Marnie delivered the final blow like a surgeon, calm, precise, and cutting. In the end, she said to the judge, this wasn't a case about a complicated family. This was a case about boundaries being violated. About trust being shattered. About a mother being erased, one bad choice at a time. And about a child who was nearly lost because adults couldn't admit they weren't capable, or honest, or brave enough to ask for help. The judge sat with it for a while. Then she ruled. Full and sole legal custody to me. No visitation. No contact without court permission. A restraining order was filed against Taryn and upheld. My parents were issued a no-contact order for Maisie. No phone calls, no gifts, no showing up at her school or daycare. Melanie cried. Frank stormed out. I didn't flinch. But I wasn't done. Because the court can protect Maisie, but I needed something too. So I made my own kind of justice. A month later, I submitted an op-ed to a local Denver paper. Title, The Family That Gave Away My Daughter. I told my story from start to finish. No embellishments. Just the truth. I detailed the deployment. The silence. The betrayal. The knock at the door from a neighbor holding my child. I didn't use their names. But anyone on our old block would know exactly who I meant. It went viral. Veteran forums picked it up. Parenting groups. Military publications. Even a few local talk shows asked me for interviews. And my favorite part? The Facebook messages started pouring in. Your strength is inspiring. I live 2 doors down from your parents. I had no idea. I'll never look at them the same again. My sister went through something similar. You gave me the words I didn't have. Frank and Melanie stopped going to their church after that. Silas texted me once. They think you ruined them. I replied, they did that themselves. Maisie and I moved back to Washington State a few months later. I took a logistics job with a private firm, remote work, flexible hours, enough to be home for dinner and bedtime stories. She's 4 now. Her nightmares come less often. Sometimes she still asks if the lady is coming back. I tell her no, that mommy's here and she's safe and no one's going to take her away ever again. We plant tulips in the yard. She rides her little bike up and down the sidewalk. Every time I hear her laugh, I remember what could have happened and how it didn't. I didn't need revenge for destroying them. I just needed them to live with the truth that the daughter they once called a burden, she became a better mother than they ever were. And she did it without them.